Federal probation. Can you do it? Is it possible? It's completely different than state probation, guys. So if you've experienced state probation, Fed probation is totally different. One of the first things you're gonna have to watch out for is they got different slang for it, red light, green light, different things, but you have to actually get up in the morning and you have to call a answering machine and you put in your number, you do as it prompts you, and it tells you you got to come in today or you don't have to come in today. And you do that every single day. I think it's just Monday through Friday. You constantly have to put in that information, and you might get called 3 days in a row. You might not be called for 5 days. But in my case, I'm in Stuart, Florida, and I'm about an hour and a half, maybe an hour from the Fort Pierce courthouse. So I had to get up, I had to stop everything I was doing, and I had to drive all the way to Fort Pierce. And then you think, yeah, when you finally get there, when you finally get in the courthouse, they're going to be quick with you. They're going to get you in and out. Not necessarily. You go in the lobby and there's a phone and there's no receptionist, just a phone. You pick it up, you dial in, and you say, hey, I'm out here to take my, UA. And you might be sitting out there for 45 minutes in that lobby. Meanwhile, you're missing work. You're missing everything. And if you don't have reliable transportation to go there, you're hit. And then, like I said, they might call you 3 days in a row, and these might be your scheduled work days. And this is really, really tough. I swear, if I didn't have my younger brother that was really helping me out with transportation and with the job, there's no way I would have survived that part. But after you do that, I think it was 2 or 3 months that I had to be on that. And then when I finally got off that, I was trusted. Now, here's one key with federal probation. It's the same for everybody, is no contact with felons. And almost every single federal probation guideline says that, no contact with felons. Now, I wanted to start federal prison consulting. So I had to go to my probation officer. I happened to have a really good one. And he was really unsure about if he wanted to let me do that or not, because, I'm having to talk to felons every day. So I had the website ready to publish, and I'm like, dude, the website's up and I just need to take business. Can I please start? So he's like, send me the website. So I sent him the website, floridaprisonconsulting.com, and he looked at it and he's like, oh, I see a testimonial on your website. So you already started before you got permission. I said, no, that's just a space filler. That's not. And so he's like, okay, just wanted to make sure you're not having contact with felons before we actually give you permission. So then he gave me permission, and from then on, I was allowed to have contact with felons. Now, when I filled out my monthly reporting, because you do have to do monthly reporting every single month, and one of the questions they ask you, along with, your job details, the amount of money you earned, etc., one of the questions they ask you is if you've had any contact with felons. Even though I have permission to contact with felons, I still would put their names down, and, I think they want to know what crime they were charged with as well, if you have that information. So I would just always keep that updated. Even though I had permission, I just wanted to, I don't want to lie and say none. I've got permission, so at least I need to be forthright on the form. So you fill out this form once a month, and then about once a month, your probation officer is going to want to come see you, and they're going to come to your job. But my probation officer was really cool, because I own a construction company as well, and I work on, multi-million-dollar houses as well. And so she would call me. She's like, I need to see you today. Where are you at? And I would text her the address, and she would park down the street from whatever house I was working at. She didn't make an eyesore out of herself. The people never knew. She just parked down the street, and she'd be like, you want to come out real quick? So I would walk down to her car. And it was really just a deal where I was making verbal eye contact with her, because as soon as I'd talk to her for a few minutes, just try to be nice. But when she made eye contact with me, she was ready to leave. That's just a requirement of federal probation. Now, ending federal probation early. Federal probation does hinder you from doing things like traveling overseas, etc. As well as you can't have 420 in your system at all. At all. I didn't eat poppy seed bagels, nothing. So I needed to go to Mexico, though. So I kept filing, to try to get my probation terminated early. And the feds kept coming back and saying that, oh, you haven't done half your time yet. Because I believe I sent my first motion in for early termination of probation within 1 month of being out. And so they kept shooting me down. Finally, I get to the halfway point, and I said, okay, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to send in every possible letter I can get from my family in the world. So I had all my family write letters. I got letters from everywhere. and I sent it in really, really thick. And I sent in, all the information with what I've been doing in my life since being put on probation, since my arrest, as well as all my plans carefully drawn out for, when I got off probation. And you know what? The judge liked it. I put some prayer on that too. And the judge liked it and he granted it, no more probation. And so I did almost exactly half of my probation. And you can do that with federal probation very easy. It's called a motion for termination of probation. And you just write it out as best you can. And then the most important part is get those character letters, those letters of recommendation from the community. This is really, really going to help you. I don't care what case you're involved in. You need the letters for the community. But anyways, guys, just wanted to answer a few probation-related questions for you guys. And this is Wesley Todd with Federal Prison Consulting. God bless.